Jianghai number 66. It's the same as our fishing boat's port. Isn't this a deck? It's so arrogant.
Jack exclaimed.
Cut the cable.
Uncle Hai quickly made a decision. Jack quickly went to find the axe to cut the cable, but found no tow anchor hook or cable in the stern, and couldn't help but gasp.
Uncle Hai, there is no cable. Where can you cut it?
Uncle Hai hurried to the stern of the boat, but he really didn't see the cable pulled by the tugboat. Because of the huge drag force, the stern of the ship crosses the waterline, and if it drags down, the boat will have to become a submarine. He quickly made a judgment.
The rope dragging the fishing boat must be underwater.
What then? Diving is not my forte. I'm the fucking first place when paddling and fishing.
Jack was anxious.
I have to go to the other side to find the cable.
Uncle Hai visually observed that the distance between the two ships was about 30 meters and gritted his teeth. After putting the rope on his back, hanging a waterproof fish lamp from the waistband of his waistband, and hanging a fishnet knife, he instructed Jack.
Turn the crane around.
The keel fishing boat is equipped with a 15-ton telescopic boom at the stern, which can extend more than 10 meters. The ghost ship also has one stern, which extends backwards, and the distance in the middle is shortened a lot. When Jack saw that Uncle Hai was about to jump over, he hurriedly stopped him.
You're dead? If I fall, where will I catch you? You can't find a grave for worship.
Hurry up!
Uncle Hai didn't have time to delay. Seeing that Uncle Hai insisted on sending him to death, Jack had no choice but to use a searchlight to help him shine on the other side. Uncle Hai climbed on the boom, roughly calculated the distance, took a deep breath, and stepped on the boom to run and rush. With the height difference between the booms of the two boats, then take a leap. But in the dark night, he didn't have much time to calculate the distance. He didn't catch the crane arm on the opposite side, and his body fell rapidly, and he was about to die in the evil sea.
Uncle Hai, be careful.
Jack pinched his sweat. But in the process of falling, Uncle Hai threw out the rope in his hand violently, and was in the stern boom of the strange ship. At this moment, he was about to fall into the sea again, and Jack was so frightened that he cried out,
Ah! God!
But Uncle Hai firmly grasped the cable with both hands, breathed a sigh of relief after clamping the cable with his feet, and then relied on the brute force of his arms to really climb up. Jack took a long breath and wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead. Today he really saw the true ability of the sea wolf.
Be careful!
Uncle Hai got on the fishing boat, waved his hand to signal that he was safe, and then took out a fishing net knife to defend himself. The strange ship was silent, and no sound could be heard. The items that should be there are all there, but no one can be found, and the person seems to have evaporated out of thin air. The equipment was dilapidated, and the glass in the cockpit was almost shattered. From the outside, the inside is pitch black and weird. Uncle Hai went to the stern of the boat first, but he didn't find the cable, and found that the trawl had been thrown into the sea, so he knew what was going on. It was supposed that the nets under the trawler were hooked on the propellers of the keel fishing boat, causing the propellers to stop. The cab has a twisting machine switch, but there is no power supply, and there is no response when pressed. He couldn't risk cutting the cable of the stern fishing net, or the two boats would separate and he would remain on the ghost ship forever. But the trawler ran wildly at sea, couldn't stop and couldn't stop, and the cable couldn't be cut. Uncle Hai frowned, and he was in a dilemma. After thinking for a moment, Uncle Hai quickly came to the engine room to see if he could start again. The engine had already stopped, and the cabin was eerily dark. Uncle Hai had to go to the stern of the boat first, and after many attempts, he succeeded in throwing the rope through the boom and allowing Jack to pull the two boats closer through the crane. This will prevent you from being dragged and will also leave you a way back. Back on deck, Uncle Hai found a layer of salt crust on the strange ship. This is due to the fact that the boat blows too much sea breeze and is slapped by the waves, and no one cleans it up, resulting in a layer of salt crust growing on the ship, commonly known as sea salt flour. This kind of sea salt flour crumbles as soon as it is pinched, and it is extremely bitter to taste, and it will not grow this thing in a few decades.
Is it really the ship that happened to my father?
If it is true, it can explain why more than 24 high family water scorpions died in that sea area. But the timing was wrong, because judging by Haiyangho, the ship had been drifting at sea for at least 70 or 80 years. Moreover, the fishing boat looks like it has been soaked underwater. Uncle Hai didn't dare to take it lightly. Carry the waterproof fish lamp to the cockpit and look for the logbook. To find out what happened to the trawler, perhaps the logbook might provide some clues. Sure enough, in an iron box in the cockpit, a booklet that looked like a ledger was found. A logbook is not an ordinary diary, but a detailed directory of voyage records, weather and sea state records, and pilots and sailors on duty. After opening the logbook, Uncle Hai quickly scanned it, and his mood fell to the bottom. Sure enough, it was a trawler hired by my father when he went to sea. Judging from the navigation records in the logbook, when they went to sea from Guangzhou and passed through the South China Sea, due to strict management, they disguised the illegally modified trawler as GMHI number 66. Coincidentally, GMHI number 66 was hired by Uncle Hai again. Uncle Hai felt that the illegal disguise was completely unnecessary. After leaving the South China Sea, the ship entered the Pacific Ocean and ran aground in this area of sea sand. The sea scorpion on the ship sacrificed itself and went to the sea to deal with it, and it stayed in the sea forever. Later, after a few people were left on the ship, they suddenly fell ill and died one after another, and finally held a sea burial. It is said to be buried at sea, but in fact, it is wrapped in rags and thrown into the sea to feed the fish. In the end, his father was left alone on the ship, and he held out for more than 2 months, running out of ammunition and food. That's it for the logbook, and the rest is all blank. It was exactly a year ago. The details of the accident are contained in the slip of the logbook, which does not belong to the original content of the logbook, and should be a clue left by Uncle Hai's father. After holding the logbook, Uncle Hai's heart felt faintly uneasy. The reason why the ship that has lost power can move must be because there is a force under the water to tow it, or it has reached the eye of the sea. The ship should be swirling along the whirlpool of the sea's eyes. This is the most terrifying, because an unpowered ship simply cannot escape the whirlpool of the sea eye. The speed of the boat is getting faster and faster, and there is a sound of wind in his ears. Uncle Hai looks at the waves on the sea, and knows that he has really touched the eye of the sea. After fixing the 2 boats together, Jack took the 2 crew members to meet Uncle Hai, and after meeting, he threw Uncle Hai a piece of half-cooked beef.
Fill your stomach first.
Jack looked left and right.
Did you find your father? I have to interview Mr. Hai. What does the old man think?
The boat is at the mouth of the sea, getting faster and faster. It is maneuvering, and we have to find a way to rush out.
Uncle Hai and Jack grew up together since childhood, and they have long been used to Jack's nonsense. Jack's tone was hurried.
But the boat was dragged by it. How did you get out? Your mind is spinning fast. Hurry up and find a way, or we'll all die here.
After pondering for a moment, Uncle Hai looked at the beef in his hand and suddenly asked,
How much raw beef do we have?
There are 2 or 3 tons, all frozen in the freezer. What are you going to do?
Hurry back, let's fish for the Sea Dragon King.
Uncle Hai and Jack quickly cut the trawl at the stern, leaving the trawler to fend for itself, and also reducing the burden on the keelboat. The trawler broke away from the keel fishing boat, was dragged by the undercurrent and suddenly turned around, making a strange crunching sound, and sailed directly in the direction of the sea eye. Uncle Hai methodically asked Jack to prepare the beef, and at the same time prepare the sea fishing rod of the keel fishing boat.
Uncle Hai, what's the fishing method?
Jack asked hurriedly after hoisting the raw beef covered with ice chips out on a crane and placing tea on the deck. Uncle Hai used a fishnet knife to cut the raw beef, but because the beef was frozen hard, the cut raw beef had ice chips and could not be hung on the hook. The flavor of the beef is covered in ice, and it does not exude the flavor in the water, so it cannot attract the underwater sea dragon king. With a length of more than 9 meters, he is a dragon, and in the eyes of the sea wolf, the sea dragon king is actually a big fish. The fishing boat is getting closer and closer to the eye of the sea, and the critical moment of life and death is a race against time, and the raw beef can't wait for it to melt on its own. He quickly ordered Jack.
Roast with a musket.
A musket is a handheld high-pressure oxygen welding, which is an indispensable repair and cutting equipment on fishing boats. Jack roasted the raw beef covered in ice crumbs. The smell of fragrant beef wafted from the fishing boat. Jack was greedy, threw a piece in his mouth, and shouted at Uncle Hai.
Uncle Hai, do you want to sprinkle some salt? It's tasteless. The sea dragon king doesn't like it, right?
Uncle Hai didn't have time to talk nonsense with Jack, so he hung more than 3 caddies of half-cooked beef on the sea fishing hook, returned to the bow of the boat and threw the hook out directly.
Jack, the searchlight is shining on me.
Jack handed the musket to one of the crew members to continue roasting, then shone the searchlight on the bow of the ship. At this look, I suddenly breathed quickly and chilled my spine.